Good morning, Lee.
You know, I was just thinking that.
Thinking what?
Just what a good morning it actually is. You know, for the first time since I took over production, I'm starting to feel on top of things.
Good. Well, I'd like to see a man happy in his work. Good morning, Mike.
What's so good about it?
Oh, I was forgetting. You've got your postponed appraisal with John today.
Complete waste of bloody time.
See you later. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. Morning, Susan. I have a feeling it's going to be a nice day.
You know the legal definition of an optimist, Lee.
What, is this a joke?
Someone who has not been sufficiently briefed. And by the look of this, you have not been briefed at all.
What the hell is this? I never said any of this. And they're quoting my name.
Did you or did you not talk to one of their reporters yesterday?
Well, I may have taken a call from one of them.
Well, this may sound off the wall to you, but if you tell reporters things, they often print them in their newspapers. That's why they're called reporters.
But I didn't think he'd bother to run a story.
Just like you didn't bother to tell me that A, we were being sued for infringement of copyright, and B, the newspapers knew about it.
Susan, this whole thing is a storm in a teacup. There are hardly any similarities between AS400 and HTP's product.
Which is why HTP is suing us for $5 million. Let's hope the judge shares your optimism.
Does John know about this?
Oh, it's only in the business pages of a national newspaper. I'm sure he'll never hear a thing. What do you think?
I'm in it, aren't I, Susan?
Up to here, Lee. Up to here.
What the hell's going on, Lee?
Oh, you didn't waste much time.
European Logistics have just called.
What, they've read the Times?
No, of course they haven't read the Times. They're in Spain. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
European Logistics. They've been down all weekend whilst we do some remote diagnostics. Damn it. They're still offline.
That's what they've been telling us. Apparently the engineers we sent across to set up the sampling network have screwed up the system. One of the world's largest freight couriers, and they can't even access their own schedules. There are tens of thousands of packages lost around Spain this morning, and it's all our fault.
Nick, what the hell's going on? Your team should have been out of there by midnight.
4 years we've had this account. 4 years of hard slog, and now some oik with a screwdriver brings down an entire network. They'll sue us. I'll kill him. No, I'll fire him first, then I'll kill him.
You can't fire him. We laid him off last month. We only hired him back as a freelancer to work on this job.
Well, this is marvellous news. Look, I want you to stop everything else and get this sorted now.
Crisis meeting in the boardroom in 5 minutes.
Shall we wait for Nigel? I think he wants to see this one.
Okay. Well, fill me in then on what happened in Geneva.
Oh, Rebecca, it was so glamorous. I hardly had a wink of sleep the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was on the stand all day. Then in the evening, it was just a whirl of restaurants and nightclubs.
You took clients out dancing all night?
Yes, and then back to the hotel in the small house for a nightcap.
Did Mike behave himself?
He was the perfect gentleman. He let me have free run of his minibar.
You went to his room?
Well, I had to. Something to do with my appraisal. Oh, he was so busy. It was the only time he could spare. Poor thing.
I see.
But it never happened. I think I might have drank too much. Anyway, I had to excuse myself and go back to my room. Oh, it was just as well, really, because I felt ever so ill. Oh.
How disappointing for him. Hello, Nigel.
Oh, good. You haven't started yet.
No, we were just talking about Brenda's appraisal.
The QE2 arrives back from Hamburg following an extensive refit. However, with less than 48 hours before it sets sail to New York on the first leg of a round-the-world voyage, the refit is far from finished. The workers who have sailed with the ship from Hamburg are still working on the cabins. John Olsen, then boss of Cunard, is shown round by Alex McCraig, the designer.
I've got, when you see later on, I'll get the guy to come back. All of this lights up in the evening. We bring in this sort of...
Meanwhile, below decks, things are far from shipshape. Many cabins are still unfinished. There are no carpets, there's no plumbing, and no electricity.
4078, passenger accommodation service team. Niagara, cabin 40.
A coded command, Niagara, summons emergency teams to deal with flooding in the cabins caused by the old plumbing.
I didn't realise that if you turn a hot tap off for 2 or 3 weeks and you turn it on again when it's cold, it's going to leak. So all these little things we've just got to, micro details we've got to fix up. And on the day we've got to sail, tickety-boo, we've got to be right. Our customers are going to demand it.
Meanwhile, Cunard management are actively trying to manage the crisis by wining and dining passengers in a nearby hotel.
Necessarily just to read everything in the media, who do occasionally exaggerate the situation, and I would like to reassure you on that point. So we would ask for your forbearance. The parts of the ship which I've seen today look absolutely stunning, and I think you will be extremely impressed, particularly if you've been on the vessel in the past and you're perhaps used to seeing the...
It's now 6 hours before departure. Hundreds of workers are busy doing last-minute jobs all over the ship, and the passengers are becoming concerned.
I mean, how would you feel? I wake up in the morning, the Daily Mail is delivered to me, and it says QE2 cancelled. I called London, closed offices. I called Southampton. All I got was machines. I'm going to write them a letter when this trip is over. The managing director will hear from me.
The QE2 finally set sail 5 hours late. Cunard has had to offer substantial compensation to 300 passengers left behind, while 500 contractors stay on board to complete the refit. The voyage gets underway, and passengers are disappointed and angry about the conditions they find on board.
When we eventually got on board, we were taken to the Queen's room, where we waited 8.5 hours for our cabin. When we eventually were given our cabin, the only water was on the deck, in the carpet. It was really wet. There was no electricity. We were absolutely exhausted by this time.
So were Cunard managing the crisis? How would other people have handled the situation?
You're listening to the yard, presumably the yard saying everything's going to be wonderful in 2 days. But I mean, you look around and you say after 20 years in the business, there's no way, Jose. And then you try to decide what will be ready in 2 days' time, and will that be plausible for the guest's expectation? If you deliver a product that is far below the guest's expectation, you're better off not delivering the product.
I could show you dozens and dozens of letters saying you did a great job, the crew did a magnificent job, the ship is in great shape, you had to do it, it's a successful enterprise. There were wrinkles, difficulties, crises along the way. This is the service business. It's never, ever going to be plain sailing.
But in New York, there was worse to follow. The ship was impounded for 48 hours by the US Coast Guard, unfit to sail. Even though the refit of the ship was complete when the QE2 sailed out of New York Harbour, Cunard's management was left with several lawsuits and millions of pounds in compensation to pay to angry passengers.
Cunard Line learnt two major things from the 1994 QE2 refit. The first is that the company management structure had to be radically reappraised. Business teams have been set up where responsibilities meet much lower down the line, so decision-making is taken much further down the line. The second thing, with relevance to the 96 refit, is that project management skills were absolutely essential to ensure that every part of the project was planned and integrated with every other part of the project, and all contingencies planned for.
Oh, I don't know how I'd cope under pressure. I think I'd just fall to pieces. You know, when I was young and things got really bad, I used to hide under the bed.
Classic flight behaviour. Exactly what you don't want to be doing in these situations.
Don't tell us. You've read a book about it.
Well, as a matter of fact, I have. There are 10 steps to managing a crisis successfully. Let's see if I can remember.
Bet you can't.
Number 1, don't panic.
Oh, great. I could have told you that. What's number 2?
get yourself a sounding board. You know, someone you can trust who'll give you good advice. If you're already in trouble, you can't afford to make any more mistakes.
Okay, what's next?
Get your priorities right. Reorder your day. Anything that doesn't help solve the crisis, put on a back burner. That's 3. Number 4 is an interesting one. You have to take an eagle's eye view of the situation.
What, you mean you have to be very sharp-sighted?
No, you have to imagine yourself looking down on the whole scene. Consider the entire picture. Ask yourself, what's really happening? Weigh up the risks, the potential problems for the business.
And then you panic.
No, then you work out what resources you have at your disposal to implement a solution, or at least limit the damage. Rule 5 is to get together a special team to deal with the situation.
You need a plan of action.
Yes, but that's Rule 7.
Sorry.
Rule 6 is to set up a communications network so you know exactly what's going on and make sure the rest of your task team has all the information they need. Rule 7 is to draft up a preliminary plan. Then, when you've got the broad agreement of the rest of the team, you turn it into a step-by-step action plan. That's Rule 8.
And Rule 9?
Continually monitor everything that's going on. You need to get information quickly. That way you can act rapidly, but not irresponsibly.
And finally?
Rule 10. And this is the most important. Evaluate everything you do, because you might have to modify the plan as you go along and make swift corrective changes.
Or you can hide under the bed.
Yes. Well, only if you can blame it all on someone else.
This is all your fault.
Calm down, Mike. How was John to know that HTP would bring this case against Redware?
It's his fault that Charles Ainsworth is working there as a consultant.
Charles is?
Yeah. Apparently after you fired him, he went straight to HTP. The next thing we know, we're being sued for copyright theft. Charles must have told them how Lee's team borrowed some of their software as a means of speeding up development of AS400.
That is a lie. Every single line of code in AS400 was written here.
Well, that's not what you say in the Times.
Yeah, I was quoted out of context. Besides, I told that reporter that every single part of that conversation was strictly off the record.
There is no such thing as off the record when you're talking to a financial journalist.
Let us all calm down. This is getting us nowhere. We also have to look at the European logistics hiccup.
Screw up, more like.
That one I can handle on my own. The rest of you need not get involved.
No, Lee, that's where you're wrong. It's when things screw up that we need to be open with each other, right? Yeah. The time when we need each other's help the most. Now, we're a team. We're going to fix this together, okay? Now, let us prioritize.
If you ask me, all our problems stem from the botched way that the reorganization has been handled.
What do you mean?
You sack Charles, now we have a lawsuit on our hands.
We haven't got their writ yet.
We fire engineers, then hire them back as freelancers, and they foul up on a job for one of our biggest clients.
Look, I never said that any of the changes going on around here would be an easy ride. The fact that Charles has spun some story to HTP shows we were right to let him go.
I can't believe Charles would have done this. It's not in his character.
Well, it happens. As for the engineer who loused up, it shows we were right to let him go in the first place. Just to make sure we never use him again.
Easy to be wise after the event.
Look, we are determined to build this company as one of the top suppliers of comm software in the world. Now, in the light of that, how are we going to deal with this lawsuit? Any ideas?
Well, if Lee is right, and there are no foundations for HTP's case, then why don't we come clean?
What do you mean?
Publish the code and defy HTP to find the alleged plagiarism.
Yeah, I like that, Susan. Yeah, why don't you draft a press release about our offer to openly publish the software? But you better check it out with legal at Softex. They're much more used to this kind of thing than we are. Well, obviously HTP are worried. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this.
AS400 is in final trials with 50 of our customers. We're virtually ready to ship.
We hit the marketplace, we'll be undercutting their product by 30–40%. And if they knew that, they'd want to stop us through the courts.
This is all beginning to make sense. They've shown their hand. The question is, how are we going to play ours?
All right. I have your 10 steps to crisis management, but when am I going to use them?
You never know what lurks around the corner.
Well, Now that Rebecca's not here, can I confide in you, Nigel? I think I may have something of a mini crisis of my own.
Well, you know what they say, Brenda. A trouble shared is a trouble halved.
It's my own fault, really. I haven't told anybody this. You promise you won't breathe a word to anyone. You see, Rebecca won this account. A big account with local government.
Yes, another one.
Well, when Mike promoted me, he also gave me the account to handle. Although by rights it should have really gone to Rebecca. I think he was trying to rub it in.
That figures. So, what's the problem?
Well, I agreed to take the account on. Ambition, I suppose. But I wish I hadn't. You see, I know it's Rebecca they really want, so every time I've gone to phone them up to introduce myself, I've held back.
How long's this been going on?
Over a month.
A month? So there's no one in charge of the account. No wonder the handover from sales to production has been so messy.
But what am I going to do? I'm really worried that when Mike finds out, he'll fire me.
Remember step one.
Step one, don't panic. Okay? Oh, Nigel, what am I going to do?
Susan, has the press release been passed by legal yet?
Yep, went out just now.
Do you mind handling any press queries for me?
Surely.
I just don't want to get myself in any deeper water.
Consider it done.
Thanks. I appreciate your help. And,
What?
I'm sorry I didn't get you involved earlier.
Just don't do it again. How are things in Barcelona?
That's all fixed now. Their system was only down for an hour or two, so apart from the odd delayed crate of castanets, I don't think we did too much damage.
So all's well that ends well.
Well, I've had better days. Do you think Charles did the dirty on us?
I don't know. It's a bit academic now.
Why?
Well, if you did copy their product, then they'll have their evidence when we publish our code and we'll be in big trouble. But if you are blame-free, we can countersue for defamation and cash in on some very valuable free publicity. So, Lee, it's really down to whether you copied their code or not.
That code is mine. And Charles knew that.
I believe you. But all we can do is wait for HTP's next move.
Right, Brenda. You know what you have to do.
Yes.
We've been through the 10 steps and you've got your plan.
Yes.
So now you just have to put it into action.
I suppose so. Nigel.
What?
Will you come with me?
Hello, John. Time for my appraisal. Unless you're too busy with all these crises.
No, it would have been better to have a meet last week, but I'm ready to do it now. What you got there?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I've been looking at some of the case studies on 20 steps. I think we can improve your appraisal system.
You do?
Yeah, sure. This idea of asking my staff to comment on the way I manage, well, it's an interesting concept. But I think we're missing out on the opinions of a far more important group of people, our customers. Now, these are the typical comments of some of our most important clients. I mean, these are the views of the very, very top people, the guys running the multi-million-pound operations. Take this one. This is from the DP manager of European Logistics. That's before today's cock-up. Ignore the first part, that's just social. But read what he's got to say about me in the second part.
That's all very interesting, you see, but it's not a formal appraisal. Anyway, it's last year's letter. You see, appraisals are all about your performance now and what we're going to agree about your performance over the next 6 months. Why don't we take these comments from your own staff here?
This is ridiculous. John, we're working in the real world. I mean, what my sales managers say about my performance is just not important. The people who matter are the clients.
All right, average your weight. Let's talk about customers. Now, last week, I spent the best part of a whole day talking to about 20 of them on the phone. The ones that had been passed over by customer services when they wanted to talk to someone senior.
That's Brenda or Rebecca's job.
Now, they were both away. I believe Brenda was with you in Geneva. Anyway, it was very constructive. Probably the most useful hours I spent in my 10 weeks here.
How do you mean?
Well, I discovered at first hand that the support we give our customers leaves a hell of a lot to be desired. In fact, in some cases, I'd say it was downright lousy.
Lousy?
In my opinion, yeah. Way below the standard I'd expect of a world-class company.
All this based on a handful of calls from a bunch of whingers who've got nothing better to do with their time than complain. John, last week in Geneva, standing for hours in that godforsaken exhibition, I was talking to real customers. New ones who are going to generate new business.
Yeah, of course we need new customers, but I'm saying it'd be crazy to alienate the old ones. Yeah? Now, I admit the sample I spoke to was small. That's why we're doing a customer satisfaction survey.
A what survey?
Well, Jenny's doing it, a customer survey. All the Redware clients, present and past.
She's doing what?
Look, why don't we leave customer relations till we get the results, yeah? Now, I wanted to discuss the way projects are handed over between sales and production.
If there's a problem, it's got nothing to do with sales. Forever whining and dining our top customers to make sure that everything's running sweet. Why, I even give up valuable management time to play golf with some of them. Okay, I admit that Lee's team could show more initiative. But if the relationship is right, then the customer will forgive the odd slip-up.
So what's gone wrong with the local government contract?
Gone wrong? I wasn't aware of any problem.
Jean Waits called? Apparently she hasn't heard from a key account manager for over a month. Now, not surprisingly, she's pretty unimpressed with the performance. She even threatened to cancel the contract before it got started.
Well, that's regrettable. But, John, don't you think that maybe your decision had a part to play in this?
My decision?
Well, to my recollection, it was you who decided to put Rebecca on the job. I said she was too lightweight, but you had other thoughts.
No, I spoke to Rebecca. She claims you took her off the account, put Brenda in.
That's ridiculous. Why would I put a rookie like Brenda onto such an important account?
So you're saying that Rebecca's lying?
No, that's not for me to say. I wasn't party to your conversation. Obviously, somebody's not telling the truth. Why don't you leave it to me to get to the bottom of it? Nigel, this is a confidential meeting.
Nigel?
Sorry to disturb you, but there's something you really ought to know. It's very important.
Well, come in.
Tell them what you told me. It's the only way.
Okay, Nigel. Look, Mike, I'm afraid I've made a big mistake.
Brenda, I'm in the middle of my appraisal. Can't this wait?
Let her speak.
I have to get this off my conscience. Really, I do.
I'll leave it to you. Good luck.
What exactly is the problem, Brenda?
I'm sorry, Mike. I tried to phone that Jean Waits, really I did, but I didn't want to make a fool of myself, and it's such a big account.
What are you blubbering about?
The local government account, Jean Waits. When you took Rebecca off the account, I didn't have the nerve to head up the team. I copped out. I couldn't even bring myself to phone her up, and I knew it was Rebecca she wanted. I'm sorry, Mike, it's all my fault. I'm just not ready for an account this size. Maybe when I've been on the job a bit longer.
Fat chance of that.
Mike, I'll handle this. Brenda, thank you for owning up. Must have taken a lot of courage for you to come here. But you wouldn't mind leaving us now? We'll talk about it later.
I'm sorry I let you down.
All right, now we all know the truth. Shall we start again?